Hi there, I'm Eitan, and welcome to Wix Fixer. In this series, we're going to be talking about authentication using Wix. So if you've been using Wix and you've been using the member app, then you're probably familiar with the standard authentication layout. And for those of you who are not familiar, authentication is basically the way that you verify that a person is who they are. In other words, it's the membership of your website. So you'll usually be using a password and email or other options such as sign in with Facebook or Google and stuff like that. In this series, I'm going to be talking about the standard email and password option. And as I said, if you've been using Wix, then you're probably familiar with this layout. You have the standard sign up. You can go to login. And you can, if I go to login with email, for example, I have the option to say that I forgot my password and then put in my email and get a new password. The problem with this is that a lot of parts of this flow are not customizable. So in Wix, you can customize some parts of the sign-in and possibly the login, but using Wix's no-code solution, you're very limited. And if you really want to brand your website and make it look in a certain way and have a certain feel and completely customize it, you're going to need to use Wix code. And that's what we're going to be doing during this series. So let's get started. Okay, so right over here, I have a template website that I set up. And this website has pages for sign up, for login, change password, and reset password. And basically what we're going to be doing in this series is going through each of these pages and showing you how to set it up using Wix code. I will say that I will be offering this template for sale on my website. So if you get stuck or you just don't want to go through all this work yourself and you just want a copy of the final result of this series, then you can head over to my website. I'll be linking it below and you can just buy it. And use it for your own website and integrate it and enjoy a completely customized login and authentication experience. Okay, so for this first video, what we're going to be focusing on is just the sign up. And for that, we're going to be using the Wix Members API. Okay, this API is going to follow us throughout this series. And let me just find it again, Wix Members right over here. Okay, so you can see here that we have a few things, and this is actually great because Wix recently changed the Wix Members API, and I think it was maybe a little over half a year ago. So it could be also that some of the code on your website is a little outdated, and it should still work, but if you want to kind of update your code so that it's getting updates from Wix, because they're not going to be updating the legacy code anymore, and eventually it might break. And definitely if you're making any new websites, then you'll be wanting to use this new authentication API here. So let's first head over to Wix Members Authentication. And we'll see here that we have a bunch of options. I'm going to move myself to the other side. And some of them, so we have login, logout, on login, on logout, and we're not going to be using all of these, but we're going to actually start here with register. Okay, and register is what's going to help us register a new member to our website. And the way we do it is if we take a look at the example code, moving myself back to the other side, then we basically need to import this authentication library and then authentication.register, and we pass in an email, password, and options. Where if we scroll down here, then we can see that the options, let's see, options. And these options include contact information. So if you want to pass in, for example, first and last name as well, a picture, etc., these are all things that you might want to do when you're registering a member. Then you can do that as well. And a few other things here. To keep things simple, I'm not going to be dealing with options in this setup. I'm just going to be doing plain old email and password. One more thing to note is that if you have your member sign up set to approve members, so you need to approve members, then after you register the members, they will have a status, and this status can be either active, that means that you don't have approval set up, or the status can be pending. And if status is pending, then you will have to approve them either manually or to do so with code later on. Again, to keep things simple, we are going to be dealing only with the active situation. So I'm going to be assuming that as soon as somebody registers for your website, they're a member and there's no additional action that needs to be taken. Okay, so to get started, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over this boilerplate code from the Wix API, and I'll link to all this below. And I'm going to head back to the editor, and we're right here on our sign up page. And what we need to do basically now is to use our custom sign up form in order to register the member. So I'm going to be zooming in a little bit here just so you can see what's going on a little better. Let's go to 125 and you can come up right here and this can go to the side. Excellent. So let me just move my video here to the right and we're going to be coding right over here. So first of all, I'm just going to paste the code that we copied right here in the onReady function. And you'll see here that the import needs to be copied to the first level. So it needs to be outside of the onReady function. And I don't need all these sample values here. And I don't need all of this that's going on in here. I'm going to get rid of all of that and just close off the then here. I'm actually going to be using async await because it's a lot cleaner. You can use then if you want. That is how the Wix APIs are built. So in this first example, I'll show you how to do it in then and how to do it in async await. And then later on in this tutorial, we'll just be using async await. So we're going to still want the then, and we're going to still want our catch that I accidentally erased before. Okay, and this will basically catch an error if we have one. So that's console.log error. Okay, excellent. So as you can see, we're still missing our email password and options we said we don't need because we're not making this very complicated. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap this all inside of a function. And I'm going to call this register new member. And this is going to be a function. And what the function will do is run this authentication. Okay, so now we need to get all this information. So first we're going to need our email. So for that, we're just going to say const email will be equal to the value of our email input. Okay, that's pretty similar. And I'm going to depend on the automatic Wix validation for this email input. So basically I set this in the settings to be input type of email. Okay, you can see that right over there. And I'm going to be basing the validation on that. You can also set up your own custom validations to make sure that the form is all working correctly, depending on what you want. The second thing that we're going to need is the password. So I'm going to say const password is equal to the value of the password field. And I added here as well a password confirmation field right under here under the password. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to make sure that those two things are equal. Don't forget to add value here. And let's also save the password confirmation in a variable. Okay, so I'm going to save that field as well. And that value. Excellent. And now before I register, so you can see already that the red squiggly lines have gone away, and that's because we have an email and we have a password. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making sure that this password is equal to password confirmation. So I'm going to add just an if statement over here. So if password is not equal to password confirmation, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say that there's an error. Okay, and so I'm going to go over here, and you can see here that under the sign up, I've set up an error message and a success message. And I just need to tap into that. So I'm going to say error message text will be equal to passwords don't match. Okay, you can write something else there. I might change that later on for the template, but for now, that will tell us that our passwords the two passwords that we gave don't match. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show this error message because now it's hidden. Error message show. And the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to return. Okay, and this should return our function. So that means that we won't ever get past this if statement if it's true. Okay, so if the password and the password confirmation are not equal, then our function will return and we won't ever get to the authentication part of the user. And let's head into the authentication itself. So after we authenticate our user successfully, what I want to do here is a few things. So we're going to get back this registration result. So let's head over back to the API and let's see what exactly that registration result is. So here we have the returns, and it returns the registration result, which includes status, and it includes approval token, and it includes member. Okay, so this member is what we actually are probably going to want to use once we log the person in. So what I'm going to do is after we successfully log someone in, I'm going to console log registration result member. Okay, just so we can see the member that we got back. This is something that I would erase in the production code itself. But now while we're still building out our code, it's important for me to check that everything is working. And then what I'll do is I will say that the success message text should be equal to member registered successfully. And then we will show that message. Show. And last, if there is an error of some kind, what I will do is say error message text should be equal to there was an error. Oops. Please try again later. Okay, and this error might be a bunch of things. It might be that they're already registered as a member. It could be some other server error. It could be a bunch of things. And we could get more specific and try, depending on what error comes back, to give a more specific error message to the user. But for now, we're just going to give a generic kind of, you have an error. And we'll just make sure to show that error message. .show. Okay, one last thing that I want to do is I want to make the error messages go away if any of the inputs are changed. Okay, and that's because we can not assume, but it's very likely that the error has been dealt with if the input is changed. For example, if we have password is not equal to password confirmation, but then they change one of those, then we probably don't have that error anymore. So I don't want to show the error message once an input has been changed. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a new function, and I'm going to say reset error message. And what this function will do, it'll just say error message hide. Okay, so this function basically hides our error message, and we're going to run it whenever we have an onChange event for one of our inputs. So let's make an array of our inputs. So I'm going to say const input array. Okay, and this is just to kind of make our code a little more dry. And here I'm just going to have all three of our inputs. So I'm going to have here email. I'm going to have password, and I'm going to have password confirm, just saved here into an array. Little w, password confirm. And then what I'm going to say is that input array dot for each. Okay, we're going to loop through these, and then I'm going to set an event listener for each one. I'm going to say for each, let's say input. So for each input, input dot onChange, we're going to run reset error message. Okay, so we're going to run the reset error message when that runs. And last but not least, I need to attach our register new member to our sign up button. Okay, so that when we click sign up, we actually register the member. So let's say, what did I call that button? Maybe submit button. Yes, submit button dot on click, and then register new member. Okay, and it could be that I'll decide to split this up into a few functions, maybe one for the validation. But for now, this function is not too complicated. So moment of truth, let's check this out and see if it works. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm going to save because we did a lot and I don't want it to be forgotten. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to head into preview mode. Excellent. Head into preview mode and test it out. Excellent. So now we're in preview mode, and I'm going to zoom out a little bit just so we have a slightly more general view of the page. Excellent. I'm going to scoot myself over. And let's try signing up. So I'm going to say, make this a little lower. Excellent. And let's just use this actual example. Let's say test1@gmail.com. And for this one, let's say test1 will be the password. And here I'm going to write another password that's not the right password, so test2. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click sign up. And you see here that we got our error that the passwords don't match. Okay, so that's working. Now let's try writing here test1. Okay, so now these two passwords should match. And I'm just going to click sign up, and there was an error. So cannot read the properties of undefined, reading status. Okay, let's see where we have that. So I'm going to go back to the editor. And it's telling me that I chose a terrible password, which is true. And at what point do we have status? So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go over here and I'm going to say, I'm going to console actually. So we got the error for status. Okay, so I'm going to pause for a second and try and figure this out, and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we're back, and one thing that I want to try is doing this on our live site, because sometimes Wix will have issues with certain things in preview mode, and it's a little hard to know what you'll have an issue with, but this whole authentication thing is often something that you will encounter issues with in preview mode. And that's because when you view your website in preview mode on Wix, you're essentially logged in as the owner of the website. And you can't really log out. So anything that has to do with registration would likely encounter problems. So let's head over to the live website and try it out. So I'm gonna head over here to the live page for our sign up. And I'm gonna try test1 again at gmail.com. And I'm gonna use the password of test1 and confirm the password of test1. And then I'm gonna go ahead and click sign up. And we see here that member was registered successfully. So that was indeed the issue. So just note that if you're testing this stuff out on your website, you'll want to use the live site. And in general, you can also try using incognito mode to give yourself an extra layer of preventing certain problems. I'm just using the regular mode here so that I can keep everything in this video and not have to do so much cutting. Great, so we have our member registered successfully. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna head over to my dashboard on my Wix website. And if you take a look here on the side at contacts and site members, which is where we have a list of everybody who is registered to our website, you'll see that we have a new member. And that member's email is test1. I don't have a name, I don't have a role because I didn't take any of that info from the user. But if you did, then you'd have the name here as well. So give yourself a round of applause. You successfully registered a member on your Wix website using Wix code if you've been following along. And the last thing that I want to show you is, as I said, using async await, because that's what I'm going to be using in the following videos. So let's head back over to our editor. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom way back in. And now I don't see myself anymore in the video. So let's pull myself right over here and zoom back in. Excellent. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is change this, as I said, to async await. So the first step will be to change our register member function to an async function. So I'm just going to add the async keyword right over here. And then instead of having then and catch, what we're going to do is we're just going to say const authentic, let's say registration result, because that's what we used over here. And that will be equal to await all of this. And then what we're going to do is get rid of this then over here and get rid of the catch. And great. So now we just have a condition. So we're going to say if registration result dot member. Okay, so if we got a member back from the registration result, then we are going to display our success message. And in any other case that we don't have, we are going to not do that. And in order to do the error handling, I'm going to add a try catch. So let's have try right over here and wrap that in there. And we're going to catch if we have an error. And we're going to run all of this code over here. Okay, and that's basically what we're going to be using in the rest of the videos, just because in general, async await gives us much cleaner code than using .then. And let's just test it out one last time just to make sure that everything is working. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to publish. Because remember, we need to be working on our live site. Excellent. And I don't think I added a logout option yet. So what I'm going to do is set that up. So let's go over to, so you'll see here that I have on the upper right-hand side, I'm just gonna zoom back out. I have this sign up button here that I set up here on the upper right that should take us to the sign up page if we are not logged into the website. And that's not set up yet. So let's set up the logic for that. And I'm going to do that inside of our master page because that's part of our header, and any code related to the header needs to go on the master page. So I'm going to do that right over here under some code that I wrote for my footer already. And what I'm going to say is that this sign up, what did I call this? It doesn't have a name yet. So let's call this header auth button. Okay, because it's not always going to say sign up. Sometimes it'll say log out. So I need to give it a generic name. So I'm going to say that header auth button dot onclick. Okay, and this I'm going to be using Wix location over here. So let's go Wix location, import Wix location, import Wix location. I'm going to say Wix location dot to, and then just my page, which is called sign up. Okay, but we're only going to be doing that in the case that our member is not logged in. So how do we check if a member is logged in or not? So we have to head back to our API, and we're going to be using this thing that's called current member. Okay, and we just import that, and then we use this get member. And if there's no member, then we know there's no one logged in. So let's go ahead and copy this code right over here and head back to our site. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this on the bottom outside of our onReady function and get rid of all this stuff right over here. Yeah, and you don't have to copy paste the code like I'm doing. You can kind of write it out yourself if you're feeling confident. I just feel like I miss less stuff when I'm copy pasting. So that's why I choose to do that. And great. So what I'm going to be doing is moving this import here to the top level. And then what I'm going to be doing is taking all of this and getting rid of this and putting this right here, right above where I am doing this Wix location to sign up on the button click. And here, what we need to do is actually use async await, because as you can see here, this is a promise because we have .then after our members, but I don't want to be doing everything inside of this .then. So what I'm going to be doing is just using async await, and I'm going to turn my whole onReady function into an async function so that we can have await here at the top level. So I'm going to say const member equals current member.getMember. I don't need options here. And I can get rid now of all of this. And then I'm just going to say here on the bottom, oh, sorry, don't forget the await keyword over here. Otherwise, we'll have some issues. And then here, what I can say is when the header auth button is clicked, if member, then what we're going to do is we are going to log out. So in order to log out, we go over here and we see authentication and we have logout. Okay. And then we can say authentication.logout and it'll log us out. Just a note, I'm using here the member to verify that we have a member, but you can also use this logged in function. Okay, so I can say const logged in equals authentication.logged in. Okay, so there's kind of two ways to do this. I chose to do it with the member. You can choose to do it with the logged in. I'm not sure if there's really an upside or a downside for either, but definitely if you're planning on using the member information after you verify if they're logged in, it makes more sense just to use the member to begin with. So let's head back over here, and I need to import authentication from Wix members. And then if we have a member, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to log them out. And in any other situation, what we're going to do is we're going to head to the sign up page. So we're going to have an else statement here and just head to sign up. Excellent. And last but not least, we need to change the wording of the button because now it always says sign up, but that would be pretty confusing to a user who thinks that they want to log out, or they click the button, they think they're going to sign up, they end up logging out. So basically what we want to do is that if we have a member, we want to change the text of that button to be log out. So I'm just going to say here, if member, then we're going to say that the text of the header auth button dot text will be equal to log. And that should pretty much cover us. And the reason I added all this in is just so that right now, when I go to try this again, I can actually log out easily and do lots of experiments, but this could have easily been a separate video. But you got a little bonus here, so I'm going to publish. And I'm going to head back over to our website and I'm going to refresh. And excellent. So you can see here that up here on top, it says log out now, because if you remember earlier when I was doing the first demonstration, I was logged in. And even if I switch between tabs or refresh, you're still logged in right after you register the member. So I'm going to click here, log out, and our website is kind of refreshing. And you can see here now that it says sign up, which is perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. And if I click sign up, it should go to this sign up page. But since we're already here, it didn't really do anything. Let's try going to our home page, which is just a blank page at the moment. And I'm going to click sign up, and you can see that we got to our sign up page. So everything that we set up is working great. And I'm just going to sign up using a new email address. So test2@gmail.com, and I'm going to use test2 password and test2 and click sign up. And we have member registered successfully. So the switch that I made from using .then and catch to async await was successful. And we're going to be using async await later on as well. So I hope you enjoyed this first part of the series where we learned how to do the sign up. The next part will be how to do the login. And later on, we'll also be talking about the password reset and changing password and stuff like that. In the future, I might do some additional videos, including stuff like CAPTCHA and stuff like that. But for now, this is the basic way to add sign up to your website using custom code in Wix. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you next time.